main man. Joining me right now is Fox News contributor Andrea Tantaros and Leslie Marshall. Good to see both you guys. I mean, let me start first with Andrea. Here we go. My voice is a little catchy. It must have been that Saturday night working late with Neil and everyone. But Andrea, you know, you look at now the field suddenly narrowing. Donald Trump seems to be on top, but let me just ask you about the math here. I mean, in terms of Rubio, can he gain Jeb Bush supporters? Could he potentially gain Kasich supporters? And if so, does that present a real challenge to Trump?
Well, I think that it's going to be tough for him to get Jeb supporters because there's no love lost between the two men, but he could get Cruz supporters. So it depends on whether or not Cruz stays in this race or gets out of this race. Cruz supporters are naturally anti-establishment. They tend to be evangelical. There's a chance that they may go to Donald Trump. However, the Jeb supporters, Trish, naturally will move over, I think, to a Marco Rubio.
Interesting. So I actually think, if you think about it that way, assuming, Leslie, that Cruz is going to stay in this race. I mean, certainly he's hoping for a good performance in Texas and should likely get it, given that he's from there. If that's the case, then does Rubio really become the biggest threat in all of this to Trump?
Well, you know, even Trump himself has said this is a three-man race, and the GOP establishment has to decide who they want as their candidate. Right now, whether it's Jeb Bush's votes or money, which matters more than the votes, because Jeb definitely had a lot of cash flow and donation from big donors. But they need to, the GOP, say, honestly, have a sit down with the other candidates and say, your numbers aren't good. We've got to all rally behind and pick one, Rubio or Kasich, and everybody's going to get it behind. Because otherwise, Trump or Cruz are going to be the nominee, and polls show they're going to have a much more difficult time than a Kasich or a Rubio in a general election.
So probably a lot of the money then should be going Rubio's way. I mean, let's think this through for a minute. So in other words, if he gets the money, if he starts pulling in all of Jeb Bush's votes, and he pulls in all the support from Kasich, does that mean that actually you're going to be looking at much more a two-person kind of race, Andrea?
Well, I don't think he's going to get that much support. Jeb didn't have that much support to begin with. I mean, some of these polls use it 6%.
What? I mean, around.
And then you also got to factor in Ben Carson. Everyone forgets about Ben Carson. Ben Carson
with
supporters,
his 3%.
That would likely go to Trump. So it all depends on who stays and who gets out. I don't think that in a general, Rubio would be better off beating Hillary Clinton than Donald Trump. And I say this because you look at the numbers. The Wall Street Journal, Charles Murray, has been arguing this for months. These blue-collar voters, that's a traditional Democratic voting bloc. 53%, Trish, breaks for Donald Trump on this, and the numbers in South Carolina also
Listen, I believe it. I got to tell you, I mean, just anecdotally, I mean, people that I've talked to, blue-collar Democrats, they like Trump.
They do.
It's
the construction worker, you know, and Trish, that is the demographic that Reagan got, and it's the one that feels that it's been left behind by the Bush administration. This is a voting bloc that the GOP establishment has ignored in favor of amnesty and other issues, and Trump is tapping into something there and giving Democrats enough for Barack Obama to identify Trump by name.
So let's think through the strategy that you would use if you were Donald Trump. So Rubio suddenly, say, emerges as your big contest here.
Yeah.
Do you say, look, this is a guy who's basically bought and sold for? I mean, he's the guy who's got all the money, all the lobbying groups behind him. He is the establishment's candidate. And if he can drive that message home, does that suddenly start to knock Rubio to the sidelines?
I think you're right, Trish. I think the message about him being establishment, being bought and paid for, but the most important thing, look at the news cycle today. ISIS in Libya. Who backed Libya? Who backed the ousting of Muammar Gaddafi? Marco Rubio, along with Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. If Trump can make a case for national security with threats against the West, as we're reading in the New York Times, I think he has a very compelling case, along with immigration.
Who is the harder candidate, in your view, for Hillary Clinton to beat? Is it Donald Trump or Marco Rubio?
Marco Rubio, because I think, you know, look, we're seeing in some of these states, quite frankly, I think an ugly side of the American public with some of the rhetoric that Donald Trump is putting out there. But I think in a general election that we're going to see, because we have seen socially more of a left-leaning America and fiscally more of a right-leaning America. And to Andrea's point, I don't disagree about the blue-collar Democrats, but a lot of those blue-collar Democrats are union workers. So I think Rubio is much a bigger threat. And with regard to Jeb Bush and those votes, the polls show 23% of those people are undecided. So even though it's not a lot of people, those are some votes, some people up for grabs.
I just wonder if he seems like the inexperienced little boy up on stage next to Hillary Clinton, who has been Secretary of State.
Yeah, but so is Barack Obama. and he's our president.
But that's not a
Barack
compelling
Obama was
argument to
viewed as an
GOP voters. That to them is going to say, and look what happened. I just think that Rubio, I do disagree with you, Leslie. I do think that even though Rubio is young and youthful, and the polls show that he would be a threat now, his positions, some of them, like I said, Libya, nation building, the child tax credit, immigration reform, even though he's tempered his position, they align with Hillary Clinton. And I think Donald Trump is more of a sharper contrast on immigration and national security.
Plus, you'd really want to see that debate, right? Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We look forward
I want to see you moderate, Trish. That's what I want to see.
Listen, thanks so much to both of you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Make sure, everyone, you